This is real. This is me. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So I'm gonna go through, talk about the bunch of books I read over the summer. I have them all stacked up right next to me. I got this nice, warm cup of Earl Grey tea, and I also want to talk about potentially what I want from this channel, what my goals are, like the type of videos I want to make, and do a bit about that. I'm pretty much just gonna go in the order that I read them, so I'm gonna start off with The Post Office Girl by Stefan Zweig. This is a translated novel, translated from the German by Joel Rottenberg, and this is this is a New York Review book edition of this novel, and I heard some good things about it, so I decided to pick it up. Overall, I think the first half of this novel, I was like, okay, things are kind of happening. And then the second half of the novel, I was like, okay, things are happening. I'm on board. I get this vibe. I agree with this vibe. Post Office Girl follows a post office girl named Christine. The era is about World War I. It's set in Austria, and Christine is poor. She's poor, and her mother is sick. She has a tough life, and she just gets through it by the virtue of her job. She has a rich aunt that has tramped off to America with her wealthy husband, who out of the blue invites her to a weekend away in this fancy hotel, and she originally doesn't want to go. Christine doesn't want to go. She's like, Mom, I can't really leave you. And her mom's like, girl, go. Have a good time. I remember when I was your age. And Christine goes off. And literally the next, 100 pages or so, is basically about Christine going to this hotel and becoming, or getting involved in this rich, pretentious world that her aunt is super familiar with. Just the egregious amount of wealth that these people have, and like how it affects who they show themselves off to be, their personas, what they find acceptable, what they find uncouth. It starts off as this kind of fun thing where, she's enjoying herself for the first time. She's getting access to all these beautiful dresses and a hairstylist that cuts her hair like in a cute way, and her aunt is really bringing her into the fold and showing her, hey, this is what a life of wealth looks like. Have yourself a good time. There's a moment essentially where after things happen, her aunt cuts her off, and then she gets basically shuttled back on a train to Austria to live in her poor life, and just one thing after another happens, and she ends up meeting Ferdinand, this, I think he's a veteran, bitter war veteran and a disappointed architect. And basically it goes from getting you swept up in this egregious display of wealth to you're now returned to your poor, disgusting life. That's gonna hit home. I will say the first half of this book, I was like, okay, and I'm reading just to read it. Like, I want to get through this. It's on purpose, but it's like just the details about every little like new fangled thing the girl gets to do. I was like, okay, I'm just getting through this. Once it got back to her and Ferdinand meeting, and this is like the end of the book, and all that entails, I was hooked because it goes into such a critical mass on wealth dynamics and class divides that I love this book. I dog-eared, I don't know if you can tell, but I dog-eared a lot of pages in this like latter half. I see there's one section I want to read. This is Ferdinand speaking, and this is a section that just like I dog-eared because it sticks out to me. Every morning when I go to work, I see people coming out of their front doors, underslept, cheerless, their faces blank. See them going to work that they haven't chosen and have no love for, and that means nothing to them. And then again in the evening, I see them on the streetcars on their way back. Their expressions leaden, their feet leaden, all of them exhausted for no good reason, or some reason they don't understand. They just don't know it. They don't believe it, or they don't feel it strongly, not the way I do. This horrible purposelessness. For them, getting ahead means earning 10 more shillings a month, or getting a new job title, another dog tag, or they go to their meetings in the evening and hear about how capitalism is on the way out. Socialism is going to conquer the world. Give it another decade or 2 decades, and the system will collapse. The whole line. But I'm not as patient as that. I can't wait a decade or 2 decades. I'm 30 years old, and 11 of those years have been wasted. I'm 30 and I still don't know who I am, and I still don't know what it's all for. I've seen nothing but blood and sweat and filth. I've done nothing but wait, and wait some more. I can't take it any longer. Being at the bottom and on the outside, it makes me livid. It's driving me crazy. And I feel time's running out while I'm just doing odd jobs for other people, even though I know I'm just as good as the architect who's telling me what to do. I know as much as the guy at the top. I breathe the same air. The same blood runs in my veins. I just showed up too late. I fell off the train and can't catch up no matter how fast I run. And then it goes on. If you want a work that is classic for a reason, this is one of those. This is definitely, I think, an important piece of literature. This wasn't the most perfect book. None really are. But I would highly recommend The Post Office Girl. If you've seen people talking about it, it's for a good reason. So I would definitely recommend it. Ooh, we're going to get into a little controversial one. I Who Have Never Known Man. I primarily listened to this on audiobook while I was at work doing my little chef things. I Who Have Never Known Man by Jacqueline Harpman was published, I think, originally in the 80s. No, published originally in 1995 in France. And this is translated from the French. I've also been notably interested in translated books recently, and I've been reading a bunch of them. So I Who Have Never Known Man is about this group of women of all ages who are trapped in the cell underground. They have no knowledge of the outside world. Well, the main character has no knowledge of the outside world. Some of these older women vaguely remember what things used to be like, but there was just an event that happened, and then afterwards, all these women are trapped in this underground cell. They are prisoners. There are male guards that come and give them food, that do not interact with them. When you're trapped underground in the dark and everything, time starts to blur, you forget things. You're a prisoner. The protagonist of this story is the youngest of them and has pretty much no knowledge of the outside world. And so she thrives on the little tidbits of information that the other women give her. Tiny little spoiler, obviously they were trapped underground. All I will say is that there is an opportunity for them to escape, and the rest of the story follows that. That is what helps drive the story forward, rather than them just being trapped in the cell the entire time, which I think going into this book, I thought they were trapped in the cell the entire time, and I was like, not sure what's going to happen, but I'm going to give it a chance because I've heard good things. I think a lot of this, I primarily listened to this on audiobook again, so I was following along with the story. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate this book, but it was a lot of not a lot. And I think this book is very important. I think the commentary it offers up is very important. And I think the notions of womanhood and friendship between women and transfer of knowledge from elder women to younger women, I think all of those are cool concepts that this novel explores. And the overarching plot, I think, was pretty cool. I just felt, again, it was a lot of not a lot. Doesn't mean it's bad, this is not a super plot-driven novel. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's also not a super long book. 164 pages. So it is not a huge book. I can read it once, accept and acknowledge the uniqueness and import of the story, and then move on. It is worth noting that I am not a woman. It is not necessarily going to potentially change me or impact me the way that it might women. It's interesting because obviously there's comments on, misogyny and the experience of being a woman, but I think there's a specific scene that undermines the concept of this being violence only inflicted on women. And if you've read this book, you might know what I'm getting at when the concept of the whole book is that it's women that are trapped in a cell. There's a scene that kind of undermines that. Yeah, that I think threw me off from the whole concept as a whole. But overall, that's another book I read and did enjoy. Next book I'm going to talk about is In Memoriam by Alice Winn. This is on the gay romance side, but it's also just fiction set in World War I. It follows these preppy school kids in England, and they are going to school and young when World War I is kind of getting off the ground. I devoured this book. Okay. Let's all be obnoxious on the road. Anyway, Shut up! Anyway, I devoured this book. I read this in like 2 days. I was very fond of this story. It's basically about, these two like will they won't they couples. Like they both think that they hate each other, but really they're secretly in love. Or are they in love with other men? Or it's about gay men in World War I. It's about gay men going to war. Literally there's like two main characters, I will say. And one of them goes to war. He goes to war because women around him basically make fun of him and call him a coward and emasculate him. And he's like, oh, I gotta go fight the Germans. And then his homeboy at school is like, damn, this guy that I am maybe not entirely in love with just went to war. I gotta go with him. Ooh, we're looking a little different. Sorry, video cut out. I am in a constant battle with my phone storage right now. So I've been spending a little bit of time deleting videos and shit so I could record the rest of this one. Yeah, I think I was talking about In Memoriam. Don't remember exactly what I said after that. I know I made a comment about how there's portions of this that are told like through letters, kind of like in epistolary format, which I do like. I like Dracula. I like Bram Stoker's Dracula, the apex of the epistolary novel. I enjoy a little gay romance. I enjoy a little gay, gay. I enjoy gay shit. And this was a good book though. And it doesn't shy away from the horrors of war and just what people go through. This is not groundbreaking commentary on the nature of war and imperialism and shit like that, so don't expect that. But the violence that people go through during war is terrible and horrendous, and this book points out some of that. Just all the violence and the people that survive and don't survive, and even if they do survive, the trauma that they're inflicted with, whether physical, mental, it's horrendous. And this is taking place in the 1910s during World War I, and just fast forward over 100 years and we have our advanced state of warfare today, but the violence is still the same. The disgusting claws of imperialism and war profiteering that invade all aspects of our society. It's insane. I hate it. Comments for another time though, but I did like this. Okay, so the next few ones are what I've read in the last month and a half. I have done quick reviews as shorts for them, so watch those if you want, up those view counts, why don't ya? However, I'll still talk about them here, but I will take a little break and say I want to talk about what I want from this channel, what my goals are. And I am a writer, I'm a reader, I'm an author, I like playing video games, I like listening to music, I like watching movies, I love the art of storytelling across all shapes and forms and mediums, and I like different types of storytelling, and I want to talk about all that. I have different things I want to do that I know I want to do with this channel. I have a lot of video ideas. Some are going to require a lot of effort. I have ideas that I want to get across and share with y'all. And, I love talking. I love having opinions. And I also love people listening to my opinions. I am very much a Leo. That is a defining personality trait of mine. I'm sorry. I am beholden to my astrological chart. I ain't giving you too much information yet, but just know I am a Leo. It's going to make sense. Anyway, I have strong opinions. I like having them heard. And so I'm going to be doing that a lot with this channel, is just saying shit. But I also want to follow along with my author journey. I have lots of things I've written. I'm working on a book right now that I'm trying to get through this next draft, this fantasy. The first book in this large, expansive fantasy world that I want to develop and write in. So follow along with that. In learning different languages right now, so I have an idea that I want to do for that. In regards to that, I have a good hold on Spanish. I took several years of that in high school and college. I'm also learning Korean. I started learning it this year. I've been slacking a little, but I am continuously making progress. There's other languages I want to learn, but those are in the future. Right now I'm focusing on Spanish and Korean. I want to learn Arabic. I want to learn Hawaiian. I'd like to learn Japanese a little bit, at least travel, conversational, just a little, but I would like to become relatively fluent in at least a few languages. And I think Spanish absolutely is going to be one of them, but Korean might be the other one. And then I like learning languages. It's fun. And so I'm going to talk about that too, especially as it relates to, the other stuff, books and writing and stuff like that. I want to continue with the book reviews. I feel like, chatting a little bit every time I finish a book is something I'm going to keep putting out there. I'm going to keep doing these quick review shorts and other kind of shorts, but hopefully I can find a way to condense my thoughts even further, because I think shorts are up to 3 minutes, I think, and I'm almost hitting that these past couple times. So yeah, obviously part of my name is Pumpkin Daddy, which is my gamer tag. It is what I go by on a lot of platforms, and there's lots of different video games I play. I love lore, and so when we're talking about storytelling and writing, video game writing is a cool thing I'm interested in, and I want to talk about that. And there are different ways I intend to do that, so look out for that. I think writers and readers should play video games. I'm gonna have strong opinions. I welcome discussion, but at the end of the day, this is my channel and my opinion is correct. Okay, now a little bit back to book reviews. Oh, I do want to say, technically not a book. I've read about half of it. I started reading, what's it called? Empire of Silence. The first book in the Sun Eater trilogy. Oh, I did not like it. I don't like it right now. It is so boring. I am so sorry if you like that. There are so many people that like that series and recommend it as like a great sci-fi series to get into. Please tell me if the series gets better if you've read it, because I have half of mine just to DNF it and get rid of that book. I read like half of it. I'm on like page 300, 400 something, and I just am like, I don't care about this. It's on my shelf right now, and I guess I'll come back to it eventually, maybe, and see how I feel. I'll give it another shot. I'm going to at least finish the first book. Like I'll at least finish the first book so I have an actual opinion on it, but I don't know if I'm going to continue the series. So please, if you love the series, if you love the Sun Eater series, you're welcome to like give me a little convincing, give me a little something. Convince me in the comments, please. I love sci-fi. It's one of my favorite genres. I love sci-fi and fantasy. Anyway, I put that book down and got Veniss Underground by Jeff VanderMeer. He's my favorite author. I love him. I love Annihilation. Annihilation is, I think, my favorite book of all time. Yeah, love The Southern Reach. Love Absolution. Well, that's getting ahead of myself. I did not love Absolution, but I enjoyed it a lot. I love his writing. I love his style. And so Veniss Underground is his first novel. I can see a lot of his style and his sci-fi tropes that he uses in books like Annihilation and Born. The weird science, the messing around with people's perception of nature, the idea of animals being technologically advanced or tampered with by humans, that shows up in Born. I'm gonna start reading A Peculiar Peril by him, and there's an alternate Earth that Aleister Crowley like rules over, and he has talking fucking animals in his army or something like that, and it's cool. I think it's creepy in a sense. It definitely gave me, as I was reading it, it gave me Scavenger's Reign vibes. A lot of Jeff VanderMeer's writing gives me Scavenger's Reign vibes. I would love an adaptation of his work in that animated style. Oh, that would be so beautiful. Then I read Moon of the Crusted Snow by Waubgeshig Rice. This was, I'm trying to read more indigenous literature and also literature set in Canada and like Inuit territories. This is set in an Anishinaabe community. It took me 3 times to say that because of Anne. Anyway, this is a cool, like, pre-dystopian collapse of society novel. I didn't think it was too inventive with its story. It, like, didn't go outside the box too much. I do think the focused viewpoint, though, is what makes this really great. It is focused on this one community, this Anishinaabe community, how they specifically are handling it based on their like contextual place in this land that technically isn't their like homeland. I'm really excited to read the next one, Moon of the Turning Leaves. I am waiting for it to come out on paperback though. Do you see this? This is a paperback. This is a paperback. Hell no, I'm not getting the sequel in hardcover. Like if you agree, you have to have, you don't have to, but I want, if I'm buying several books in a series, I want them to be the same format. I want them to look similar on a shelf. I don't like the idea of like going between paperbacks and hardbacks. Sometimes it happens. Let's look right now. Well, I don't know if you can see it, but I have the Southern Reach series on paperback. Absolution I have as a hardback. I was not waiting to read that. But if you also see right there, I have the first 4 books of the Stormlight Archive. I read the first 2. I am going to wait to get Wind in Truth when it comes out on paperback in May of 2026 for some stupid reason. It's not even coming out in paperback a year after the hardback release, which is weird. It's so hard being a reader. Again, kind of following that vibe of like northern literature and books set in a snowy place. I wonder why I'm reading these types of things. The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. I just posted a shorts little video about that. I did not really like this book. Sorry. I did not really like it. It took me way too long to get through. I was picking it up and putting it back down because it did not capture my attention. It was a little boring. A lot of the characters like irritated me. So the premise of the story, it's a retelling of a fairy tale. It follows this married couple that builds this little girl out of snow and she comes to life. They live in Alaska, the frontier in 1920, that time frame. Originally, they're like, whoa, what the fuck? This girl is just appearing out of nowhere and it's crazy, wild, and dangerous outside. Like, you can't be just leaving and running through the woods. And then quickly they realize, oh, she's not a real person. She's like a little fairy. It kind of follows that, and it's definitely a parenting focused novel. I think there's a lot of commentary, or the story kind of offers up a perspective on parenting as the main characters essentially experience motherhood and fatherhood for the first time because they can't have their own kids, but they feel that way over Faina, even though she's not their actual child. And I think that's also why it partially irritated me, because they were so consistently overprotective over Faina even as she was growing up. But to an extent, for example, one thing that irritated me was how often one of the main characters said, oh no, you can't go out in the cold, like you're gonna freeze to death, when it's been established time after time that she does not get cold. She lives in the wilderness. Like, stop saying you're gonna freeze to death, girl. She's not. So it's two sides of a coin. One, if I give the author grace, that was done purposefully. That was done purposefully to show how overprotective parents can be. If I don't give the author grace in that respect, then it was just annoying. It was annoying writing. I don't like repetitive, like, if something is established, we don't need to keep rehashing things that are disproven in a novel. Does that make sense? I also hated the ending. I disliked this ending for this book. It left me with a sour taste in my mouth because I was like, this did not need to happen. This did not need to happen. This clearly could have gone a certain way. I don't really want to talk about it right now because that's like a major spoiler, but I have a specific issue with the ending because it did not need to happen that way. But it did, and I gotta deal with it because I'm not the author. I'm not Eowyn Ivey. I just have to trust her and experience the story she wanted to tell. And that's another thing that I wish a lot of people would understand is goes for movies as well, especially. You are presented a story that someone wanted to tell. Just because you don't like how it ended or you don't like a certain plot point does not necessarily make it bad. I experience this a lot with movies because there are some twists, that will happen, and I'm just like, oh, I really didn't like that, but I'm engaging with the piece of art as it is presented to me. This is the story that the directors, the authors, the writers, they wanted to tell. And I get to engage with that. I get to see that. Whether or not I necessarily liked it, I don't really factor that into whether I consider it good or not. And I think that's an important thing a lot of people should be able to understand, and especially when critiquing something. Again, just because you personally didn't like something doesn't make it bad. A perfect example for this concept for me is the movie Longlegs by Osgood Perkins, I think. That came out last year with all the marketing and everything, and Nicolas Cage and his great performance. I was so excited for that movie. And then if you've seen the movie, you know the turn it takes. I thought it was going to be more like, the Zodiac Killer, like a FBI, like a really Mindhunter-y, and it turned out to be paranormal. The twist was that, there's a demonic force possessing these people. I didn't really vibe with that. But I still think the movie was good because that is the story they wanted to tell. That is the twist they wanted to happen. That is what they wanted for that movie. So, I have to separate an actual critique on the movie with the fact that I didn't really like that they went the supernatural route when it comes to that. Last thing that I really want to talk about before I kind of wrap this up, I read a couple comics. Absolute Superman Volume 1, that's a more recent one, and Alan Scott Green Lantern. Also, I'm going to talk about comics and manga on this channel at different points, so watch out for that. I'm getting back into DC Comics because I've always loved DC Comics, and I picked them up and put them back down. But the Absolute Universe interests me, and I love this comic. I definitely highly recommend Absolute Superman as a way to get into Superman. It's cool, it's unique. It switches up his origin story a little bit. Well, kind of a lot, that's the whole point. But it still retains the essence of his character in a way that I really enjoyed. There were moments in this first volume that gave me Man of Steel vibes, and this is going to be very controversial, but I like Zack Snyder's take on Superman. I think we're allowed to have different takes on Superman, and there's good to be found in all of them. But there's a moment in this comic that reminded me of the beginning of Man of Steel, where Clark is keeping a low profile, hopping to all these different places and helping people because he is a superhuman. He is a Superman, but he doesn't know what he wants to be. He doesn't know if he wants to be public about the powers he has or if it's safe to do so, but he still wants to help people directly and indirectly. He saves people. He is a force for good. And I like that about Man of Steel. I like that kind of introduction. Absolute Superman does that as well. The beginning of this, Clark is going, there's not really Clark. Kal-El goes around and is helping all these people on Earth after he's crash landed as a teen. He's helping all these people, making a positive impact on these people's lives all over the globe. Keeping a low profile, moving on after he's helped people, after, he's gotten a little too close to revealing that he's a Superman. So I like this. I'm going to keep reading it, and I think I'm going to get the issues as they come out. Alan Scott Green Lantern, it was fine. It's nothing to write home about. It's cool. I love Green Lantern as a concept for a superhero, but it's always so weird to me. I don't know. There's good and bad about Green Lantern comics, but this was definitely more following the character of Alan Scott in this version than it was kind of showcasing a Green Lantern story. I will say this is very homo, and I think a lot of people didn't like this take on Alan Scott right when it came out because they called it woke trash, that whole vibe, because he was gay. Get over it. That's all I'll say. But I do think this was a very gay book to its detriment in a way, because there were a lot. Alan Scott is a whore. He sleeps around with all these men that look like his first love, and he just moves on, and they all start getting killed. And I'm like, damn, this is putting gay people in a bad light. I just found that funny. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too raunchy or anything, but it definitely makes overtures to the nature of like what it was to be gay in like the early 20th century. I think stories like this are necessary, and seeing it in a comic format with a DC superhero, especially Green Lantern, is interesting. I think it's good. I think it's a good story to be put out there, but yeah, it wasn't my favorite. Ending this video saying, while technically it is still summer, The Snow Child I have considered as my last like summer read, but I did read Calabasas. Technically, again, maybe a summer read. I'm going to separate it though. I actually think I'm going to do a video specifically on Calabasas. I am going to leave you wanting more. I'm going to talk about Calabasas in another video though. Anyway, I've blabbed and blabbed a lot right now, so I'm going to go have a little snack, stop my tummy from rumbling. Thank you so much for watching. I am excited to see what happens with this YouTube channel. Again, I like talking. I have a big mouth and strong opinions, and I want to put them out there. Until next time, stay peachy, and hope you all have a great day.